of the South African Council of Churches. Bishop, before we ended our conversation there, we were still talking about the matter of, let's welcome you back. I don't know if you're still there, Bishop.
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Thank you so much for your patience. We're still touching the matter. We're still touching the matter of concerns about the distribution of food and the allocation of tenders in terms of people who will carry out this work, and if the benefits of this process will reach the intended beneficiaries.
Yes, it's a very serious concern. There isn't an easy formula for that. We have made a proposal, at least to the extent that we can as SABC, that, you know, how people live. I would say definitely poor communities have a way of knowing each other's concern. And we're saying that the local churches, the local worshiping communities, whether they're mosques or Christian churches, but they live in a way socially that allows for people to know what difficulties are being experienced at the neighbor's house. And we want these people to actually surface those and get the lists up so that they can be verified by the Department of Social Development. That is our partnership with Social Development. But we also think we've made some proposals of how we think they can reach them. I wouldn't necessarily want to discuss those here, but really it's about saying, how do you use a combination of the cell phone numbers that we have, which is everywhere, with the voters roll, with the list of indigent people that municipalities have, and of course the number of people that have applied to SASSA that were declined for several reasons, who are very, I mean, everything that can be done to surface the most vulnerable people in our society. We say, please, let's pull these names out, let's get these people verified, let them get their support, but most importantly, give them the agency to buy what they need for themselves. And I'd like to take the opportunity also to refer your viewers to the SABC COVID website. It's currently called coronachurch.org.za, coronachurch.org.za. It's got a range of useful multimedia content on the pandemic. This can be downloaded by church and community members. We also have guidelines on how to organize themselves. In some communities, they've got something they call Community Action Networks, CANs, that civil society organizations are putting together. Now, the church groups in the LEANS, Local Ecumenical Action Network, must participate in those as much as possible. They bring everybody together, bring in the Stockwell, bring in the Burial Society, bring in everybody that's organized, the youth organizations, the women's organizations, all this electronically, so that you can then build a network of people that help each other. This is a society that cares, and we need to build on that culture as much as possible. But we must make sure that this COVID becomes a game changer in the way we live and in the way we do our economy. It cannot be as it was before.
Bishop, how's the church coping in the time of COVID-19? There were reports the other day, and we don't deal in the business of hearsay, but it was reports that a pastor called Bushiri launched an online subscription church, and reports that about 10,000 people went online at 80 rands per person. These are just reports. Well, what's happening in the church space at this time? What new developments are taking place?
Let me say three things, and of course I do have to get out because we've got a memorial service that should begin shortly of a former leader.
And we thank you for giving us the time.
But let me say this. The church, like any other human institution, has all kinds of opportunities, and that they are entrepreneurs that make church a business, and that sell grace. And I'm saying there's nothing new about this. We read about in the Old Testament or in the New Testament, in the Book of Acts, that there were people that there's somebody that actually said, "Oh, the apostles can lay hands on somebody and the Holy Spirit comes. Can I buy this skill as well so that I can be able to do the same?" That is nothing new. And in fact, we live with it in every sector of society. But that does not define church. Church is about God's grace and God's love, ministered to God's people in society so that they may have life and have it abundantly. Now, I will not pronounce on individual prophets, apostles, bishops, and priests, but I will say that we are living through a time when ministers are finding it very difficult to survive. I mean, remember that we've got many small churches that depend on the givings that people make on a daily basis. When they go to church on Sunday, maybe those takings are all that the minister or pastor will live on. And I'm not talking about the big industrial, pastors. I'm talking about very, very small, weak, people congregation that meets under a tree or that meets in a small shack. These people depend entirely, and they have no provision at this time. And we'd hope that as much as possible, we can be creative about how they continue to support their churches during this difficult time. Worship is never going to be the same for some time, especially because, unfortunately, gatherings, as we do in churches, gatherings happen to be probably the last thing that's going to be provided for that's outside of the economy. And I mean, we've seen what happened in the Free State, where a church gathered and people were infected, including our own dear, Reverend Meshwe, which is so unfortunate. And of course, that was on. Can you imagine now that we know more, we would be more careful. We know that in Korea, 60% of the infections happened through a person going to church. About 5,000 people are infected. We've just had a number of people, infected in the Transkei, as well as in Port Elizabeth, who attended a funeral. And so we need to think differently about how we conduct our funerals and how we conduct church. But church leaders today, as I speak, are in a process of working through recommendations that the SABC church leaders will consider together next week to say what happened to our being church into the future, especially as we anticipate that gatherings such as churches are not likely to be as readily opened up as we would like them to be.
Bishop Mpumlwana, thanks for indulging us.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having us. Thank you very much. And
Let's take a break.